Hello, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of The Basement. My name is Kaylee. I'm usually behind the camera, but since our last episode we talked about men and men's gender roles, we figured this week we talk about women and women's gender roles, and who better than women to talk about it. So over here I'm joined by Cynthia and Emily, and on this side I have Naya, Elvira, and Penny joining us. Thank you all for joining me today. So I guess I'll start it very open-ended and kind of a two-worded question. Like, what do you feel it means to be a woman? Like, what makes that a unique experience? Or like kind of what pops into your head kind of when you think of what a woman is or should be? Anybody have any?
Wow, that's pretty general.
Yeah, it is. You can have a lot of different answers to it.
Exactly. I guess, at least to me, it's a woman is just a nurturing person. We tend to be very nurturing, very caring, very understanding, and I think those are some of our roles.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I said it all. Also, someone that you feel comfortable, like safe with,
Yeah.
Mothers, sisters, aunts.
I'll tell you something that I noticed about all of us is that the AC is on and most of us are wearing sweaters. That's a very womanly thing. Because I don't know about you, but I'm always freezing.
Yeah.
So, I guess what are some experiences that you remember specifically that relates to being a woman in your life? I can start with mine. It's not a great story. It's not a fun story to hear, but I think one of the first things I remember when I was younger about when you're growing up and men and women being raised differently is that I used to have this dress that I would wear to church when I was younger, and it was like my favorite dress because it was purple and sparkly, and I liked it a lot. And then I hit my growth spurt, and it wasn't much of a growth spurt, but it was one. But I started getting a little bit taller, and my dress got too short for me, and my mom had to tell me, you can't wear that to church anymore. And I was like so confused as to why, but she was saying, she had that terrible, uncomfortable talk of, there's other people that will see things like that and be tempted or other things. And I was so annoyed and frustrated with that, but it was for me, it was one of the first things of like, oh, this is one of the things I have to just deal with growing up, Yeah.
So I want to add to that unpleasant memory. Mine is kind of unpleasant, but when you were talking about that a little bit earlier, it just popped into my head. And it's one of the earliest memories I have. My mom was traditionally Asian, and she came from a generation where men and women had very distinct male and female roles. And there were certain behaviors that were expected of males versus females. I was the youngest in my family. I was also the only girl. I was the only daughter of the only daughter. And she and I, over our time especially during my adolescence, she and I used to butt heads a lot. And I think it stemmed from a long time ago when I was smaller, and I remember I was a total tomboy, and I used to play with my brothers, and it was just the three of us. There was like only 2 years apart from the oldest to the middle to me, so we were pretty close, and we got along as siblings, and I thought I was just like them. There was no distinction when we were small and growing up, and we took showers together. And we played a lot, and I just thought I was one of them. And there was one day I remember when I was not in grade school. I must have been like maybe 4 or 5 or something. And the kids in the neighborhood had been gathered up by the adults in the neighborhood, and they were going to go watch a baseball game. And I wanted to go. And I thought, well, my brothers are going. I should be able to go too. Why can't I go? The reason why I couldn't go, though, was because my mom said, that's not for girls. This sports are not for girls, basically, is what she told me. And well, actually, what she said, her words were exactly, you can't go because you're a girl. And that started everything. I think, what does that mean? Why? Just because I'm a girl, I can't go? And so as we were growing up, we got into all these kinds of battles where it was like, because you're a girl. And me, I'm just like, why? I would just become like more rebellious, and like, I didn't understand that. And she wasn't the kind of a parent, I guess, because maybe that's how she was brought up, where you don't explain to the child. It's more of, you can't do it because I say so. There is no explanation. So I kind of remember that, and that's my first encounter with you're a girl.
Yeah. How many of the rest of you have siblings or like brothers? Yeah. So did you guys feel like maybe you're like, oh, well, I don't see any other reason besides I'm a girl that like we're being maybe treated differently in certain instances?
Me. I grew up with 5 brothers, stepbrothers, half brothers. So I was pretty much I was the older one. I had a little sister. She was little, very, very little. And I got introduced to them when I was pretty young. And their rules were like, growing up with them, I saw, wow, like, it sucks to be a girl, because I had a stepbrother my exact same age. So when it came down to cleaning, and this was all the time, every time we were over there, oh my gosh, it was the cleaning that I just, I wouldn't stand up for myself or anything because I'm young, but I saw that, the women, which was pretty much just me and my stepmom, were the ones doing all the laundry and cooking and clean, like really deep cleaning, getting in there, washing the toilets when I'm not the one dirtying them like that. And it was I always felt it was so unfair, but it's like, well, you're the woman, and I was like, I have a brother, he's right there, like, he's my age, he can do this too. But instead it was me, growing, once we got older, it was a little bit more different. But I did see there was, because you're a woman, because you're the girl, you should learn to start doing this, you should learn to start cooking and everything. But I did see that.
Yeah. What about you, Nia? Do you think that you and your brother are raised pretty similarly, or do you notice those kind of differences?
Actually, I feel like in my family it was pretty similar, but that's just because in general the gender role things weren't super, like, okay, I guess Western gender role or whatever it is wasn't really severely, enforced, I guess. Like my grandpa, my uncle, all the men of my family, they're involved in kitchen stuff. Sometimes they cook, my mom cooks, my grandma cooks. It's like everybody does stuff in their family. Everybody cleans. I mean, they might take over different things, but that's like based off of maybe like the chores that they prefer doing. It's not like based off of, oh, you're a girl, you have to do this, or you're a dude, you have to do this. Although sometimes, I mean, I guess technically my dad does take out the trash, but I feel like that's because he just does it. My mom doesn't like to as much, just because like no one likes that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like my brother and I were pretty similar, but I don't feel like we played games that were extra girly or extra boyish or whatever. We just played together, and that was it. Yeah. At least from early age. Like other stuff, like with interacting with people at school, that's a little different, but yeah.
I think that the whole topic of gender roles has changed a lot over many years, and I mean a lot of it I think has to do with change with women in the workforce, because now it's kind of, it used to be, you know, the men would go out and do work and the women would take care of the housework. It's a lot different now though, because if you have two people working, who's taking care of the house, you know? Because sometimes I think you can feel like housework is a little less of is like a thankless job kind of thing. It's like some people think it's not real work, but houses fall apart without it. So
I agree 100% because both Johnny and I work, and I work from home, but it's still hard for us to keep up with our chores of washing and cleaning, and it piles up at the end of the week, you know. And really on Saturdays, all I want to do is clean up, and I want to start doing this, but you know, we're trying to. It's hard. It's really hard with two working parents, both of us. There was a moment where, you know, where it was him staying home, or it was me staying home with the kids, and it's a huge difference.
yeah.
Just a quick question is like, do you think that, I know that we're talking about roles, but do you really think that those are the roles that, you know, are considered roles, or are they just instilled in us?
I think they are, because it's something that I tell Johnny all the time. Sometimes I'm like, I feel like a failure as a mother because I'm not, and even as a woman, because I'm not on top of it the way I want to be. And he's like, don't feel like that. You shouldn't feel that way. You know, you're working and providing for your family just like I am. And you know, if you feel like that, then I should feel like that too. It's not just because you're a woman that you need to work and clean and do this, but it's just the way I was brought up, and the way I saw things, and it's just in me. You know, I feel like I need to do more. I need to do this because I am the mother. I am the woman of the house. So,
yeah. What do you guys all think about? I know some people have different interpretations, but kind of from that, in terms of having the men be the breadwinners and leading the household, that Bible verse that talks about women submit to your husbands.
I honestly used to be like whatever, you know, like I'm never gonna be one of those women. But like, I think it just really, the way it says it, a lot of women can be like, or men want to say, like, I was previously in a relationship where that was kind of thrown at me before, and it's like, you're a Christian, you're supposed to submit to your husband, and you're supposed to clean and cook and do this, and I'm the boss, you know. And it was hard to understand that, to really understand. I now, knowing God and going to church, I kind of understand that more. And I was telling Johnny, my husband, I was like, I understand that now. I was like, you are supposed to, you're the one that leads us closer to God. That you're the one who, you know, because if it's not him, honestly, sometimes if it's not him, like, hey, let's do this, let's read, let's he's the leader of our home, of course. And that doesn't mean that he's the breadwinner, that he's because honestly, we both make the same, so I don't think that has anything to do with that. But I mean, I kind of do agree with that. And yeah,
Definitely. I think that if we take it back to, you know, the roles that God has provided to us, yes, they are the head household, and you know, they're the leaders. He did put him in the beginning. You know, he put Adam in charge of, you know, the animals and everything. He was in charge. It wasn't until later on that he brought somebody, a partner, to be able to guide as well, to help out. And I think that's where our role falls into as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the problems that people have with that verse, and with actually any verse in the Bible, is that a lot of people use it as a weapon, or they use God as a rhetorical choice in their argument. But it's like, you're not supposed, like, that's not the purpose of the verse, or that's not the purpose of like anything in the Bible. The Bible is what it is, and people take a lot of verses and they use it as, oh, this is evidence in my big argument of stuff. And it's like, that's not, maybe, like, just let the Bible speak for itself. You don't have to use the Bible as, oh, this is A, B, C, therefore D. Like, that's not, it's not part of your argument. And I think a different topic, the verse specifically, wives submit to your husbands, also, like, it's in the context of, like, wives submit to your husbands as the church submits to Christ. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church and gave himself for her. I don't think, if we're in a relation, like, as a woman, I guess, like, if you're in a relationship with a guy who loves you as much as Christ does, who gave himself for her, literally self-sacrificing love of the highest, caliber, I don't think I would have a problem submitting to that, because I would be able to trust that person implicitly, because they're willing to, pay that price.
Yeah.
I think, to add on to what you were saying at the beginning, like submitting to your husbands, especially our generation, I feel like we're like, we can do it all. Like, we don't need to submit to a man. But I think we need to take that into context, especially because we don't live in those times anymore. We do work. We're not all at home. So I think submitting could be in different ways, not so much like you have to stay at home.
I think what Naya was saying, yeah, that could be a good thing. If you have someone that absolutely loves you and takes care of you the way Jesus loves us and takes care of us, is willing to die for us, yeah, that's not a problem submitting yourself to someone like that, because you know that person will never wield that as a weapon against you, will never hurt you, will always want what's best for you. I've always thought, like, to answer the first question that you were saying about being the breadwinner, should the male be the breadwinner? It really, that's a sticky question. It really depends on, I guess, the relationship.
Yeah.
If I know maybe before our generations, maybe that was an issue. If a woman made more than a man, that might be a problem in the relationship. But I don't know. Maybe this isn't a problem in our generations. I don't know if that's necessary. I mean, the fact is, yeah, they say that men get paid more than women doing the same job. And there's still some inequality that we have no control over that. But in a relationship, that's just something that, it might happen. But if you have good communication and it's not a threat to the man's ego, then, it's good. I mean, if it's, you guys are good with it, that's fine. It's a we need two incomes now to raise our families. And women cannot necessarily just, if you can, that's great, but a lot of us have to work to help our partner, raise the family. And what you were saying also about submitting, when God made Eve, he purposely made her out of something on Adam's side, which meant that a woman was neither to be above the man nor beneath the man, equal. But because of sin, you have this situation, as I've always looked at it, like everything was good, and then there's an emergency situation, this horrible situation where you have to now be led differently. Someone has to take the lead. Kind of like there can't be two CEOs to a company. There has to be one CEO, there's a president, and there's a vice president. You can't have two presidents running the same company. Someone has to submit. I also have heard about, like, women wear a supporting role for the man in that kind of relationship where the man is the head. And that's not a bad place to be, because, like, the neck supports the head. What would the head be able to do without that neck?
The neck, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not it doesn't mean that we're subservient or we're inferior. God had to have us play different roles now that there's sin, and it's not the same like that it was before. Had our first parents not messed up, I don't know if we would have this kind of conversation. I think it would be the way that it was supposed to be, but it's not the way that it's supposed to be. So God made allowances for that, and He had a plan in place. So it's not like what Naya said. It's not anything to be upset about if you are having to submit to your husband, I think.
But you see, a good point you brought up. These conversations aren't being brought up. They're not being taught, especially to our young girls. They're learning from outside from the world, as far as being the head of household, things like that. They're being told, no, you are equal to to whoever you either marry, whoever you date, and I don't think that that's correct because those conversations aren't happening no more.
I think that I've seen on a lot of feminist posters kind of things. One phrase that I see that comes up is raise boys and girls the same. I've seen that phrase used a lot, and like for a lot of young people growing up, there's the thing of you have to fight for being exactly the same as men, that we're just as strong or whatever, and at least physically most of the time we're not as strong as men. That's for sure. Yeah.
We talk about this, a lot at home, where my mom's always bringing that up. She's like, not only physically but emotionally. Like, to be honest, like we're very emotional.
We are. That is one thing. Yes.
We're different in that area as well.
Yeah.
We're different in a lot of areas. That's for sure.
Yeah. We process emotions differently. Yeah. Go ahead, Naya.
You can't raise people like you're different. Fundamentally we're different, and we're structured different, we're chemically different, I feel like. Well, actually no, literally, because hormones, we have different types of hormones, different ways that they work and function in our bodies and stuff. So if you say raising boys and girls the same is not the solution, I think it's recognizing our strengths and growing the things that we're good at, recognizing all of our weaknesses, men and women, no matter who you are, like just getting to know who we are, and then like raising that as that way. I don't know, just raising people the same way. That's too simplistic an approach to a nuanced problem, and it's not going to solve it.
Yeah, I think going back to talking about how you raise how like brothers or other people we know, or maybe we thought had more freedom and we thought that was unfair, but I think at least there's a difference between hoping what could be more fair and what reality actually is, because while terrible predatory things it can happen to anyone, it happens to girls a lot. And if I ever were to have a daughter, I would feel terrible having to tell her, all the things that she has to deal with, but I would want to do it because I want to keep her safe.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Exactly, definitely agree with that, and that's how I brought up my kids. Yeah, sometimes it was a double standard. I always thought, well, why is there a double standard, for boys and girls? And once I had my kids, it should be a double standard. Like you said it right. There's more danger. There's more out there for young women or women, period. And it's you have to explain to them. That's the first thing you have to do, is explain why certain things boys can do and why certain things girls can't do. And I was never told that. My brother was able to do whatever he wanted, no matter what age he was. He was 10 years old. He could be out until, dark, and and no questions asked. I'm 20 and I still had to, tell my parents where I was. No, actually, no, sorry, 19, and I still had to tell my parents where I was, I had to be home by a certain time, but there was no explanation. There was never any reasoning. It was like Penny said, you do it because I tell you to, because you live under my roof. But that's not the conversations that are happening now. It's just, well, if he can do it, then I should be able to do it. But there should be a conversation behind that always, why it's dangerous or why it shouldn't, because there are certain things that men and women can do. That's why we're completely different. That's why God made us differently. And
Yeah.
I have the same thing, what she was saying. I mean, we feel differently, we think differently, and if we were equal, I mean, we'd be the same. And that's not the way God made us. He made us different for a certain reason.
And emotional for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just the way we react to things. And just a little example of that is earlier when Olivia was up here, my baby was up here, right? She was seeing her, she was going up here, and she's near the stairs, and Johnny's like, let her figure it out, and I'm just like, oh, she's gonna fall, I need to protect her. And you know, if we're both thinking, all right, let's let her figure it out, and then boom, she falls, you know, because I want to think exactly like him. Then, you know, it's just a little example out there.
Yeah, definitely. When I was a young kid, my mom would always get mad at my dad because he would be the fun parent. Whenever I'd hang out with him, he would say, "Oh, do you want to go out for ice cream? Do you want to go do this?" And my mom was always, she would be like, "You just had ice cream. You're gonna get sick. You know, taking care of you." But usually, I'm lucky to have a good close family. But usually, if I was really upset about something or needed to cry, I would go to my mom. I go to my dad sometimes, but it was mostly my dad was, you know, he was there to take me out, do stuff. But at the end of the day, even though my mom wasn't the fun parent, she was the one that I felt most comfortable with expressing emotions and being comforted and, you know, feeling like okay and safe with her.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was just remembering how I'm a tomboy at heart, and I'm used to being around males. Actually, when I first got married and we were thinking about having kids, I was a little worried because I was thinking, what if I have all girls? I don't know what to do. I'm a girl myself, but I just like, you know, I'm used to being around my brothers, and I that's what I'm used to. And I end up having boys. So now it's like I'm surrounded by men again. And I had asked Phil, you know, what would have happened if if Dawson and Jared were girls, you know, how would we have raised them? And he's wanted to have girls that were athletic and, you know, not anything like what my mom had raised, how I was raised. But when it comes to emotions, I never understood this either. And this, I don't know, maybe in your cultures or your generations, it's not acceptable for a man to cry. Or to show emotion.
Growing up Hispanic.
I never understood that, because, you know, crying, anguish, pain, that's a human thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, you feel it. And if you're sad about something, crying is a way of relieving stress. Cry. Go ahead, cry. So we raised Dawson and Jared to be able to do that, to just like, you know, yeah, you're men, but if you're in pain or you're upset about something, cry. It's okay. We're not going to hold that against you. I mean, it's just a human emotion.
A lot of times people, and I still do it to myself, so a lot of times people view crying as a weakness. Mm-hmm. And so, especially with, you know, men wanting to be strong and be perceived as strong, I think maybe that's women maybe sometimes in society are allowed to be a little bit weaker. So it's more acceptable for us to cry. But I mean, we should all be allowed to cry.
Yeah, we should be. I mean, my father, he didn't express his emotions like that. And when you are not allowed to express your emotions. If you're upset about, if you're grieving, what happens is it's redirected inside, and then your body will start to manifest, it'll try to release it somehow, and that might come out like a stroke or a heart attack, which is exactly what my dad went through. So I never understood that. It just, crying is natural, in this world now, but it's okay for a guy to, in my mind, it's okay for a guy to be emotional, and that's fine. I don't think that you should just like hold it in, and you're not seen. I don't see them as inferior as if a male is crying, in my viewpoint.
I have a feeling most people, or some people, will think of a mother figure in their life, but do you guys have any people that you consider as a good role model in terms of what you think a good woman should be, or what you see as who's a role model who's kind of, you think, is taking womanhood kind of down the wrong path? Either way, because I know there's a lot of that nowadays.
My mom, even though she and I disagreed about gender roles, I still saw what a mother, a role of a mother, a role of a woman. As you said, that we're more emotional, and a woman's heart, especially a mother's heart, is just, the love there is just unfathomable. But she prayed for us, and the prayers of a mother, that just, there's nothing like it. So yeah, even though my mom and I disagreed, as I got older, became a mother myself. I mean, I saw, but for me, what a great woman she was.
I agree. When I was younger, I didn't really grow up with my mom being around, and I didn't live with my dad or my stepmom, so I didn't really have a mother figure, and I really got myself into a lot of trouble. But once I got older, I had my own kids, and I started seeing, wow, my mom, it's not that she wasn't there, it's not that she didn't want to be there, it's that she was always working hard and trying to provide for us. I didn't see that when I was little. I just saw it as I didn't have anyone there for me. And it's not that she didn't want to be, it's that she couldn't, because she was the provider for us and she didn't have anyone else. Now I see, and I tell Johnny, wow, my mom did so much for us. I was so ungrateful as a little one, as growing up, being a teenager, and just giving her even harder times. And I said I want to be like her. Her faith is just amazing, and she's always telling us, like, I'm always praying for my family, I'm always praying for you guys, I'm always praying for my grandchildren. And I'm like, wow, like, I want to get on her level. There's times when I do remember where I would wake up in the middle of the night and she's just there sitting on the table and just reading her Bible. At 1 o'clock in the morning, she can't sleep, she opens her Bible and she's praying for us. And I'm just like, wow, like, I want to do that. If I can't sleep, if I'm like on my phone, but she's definitely a huge role model for me now.
And now you see how much your mother loved you. That was her way of showing that she
Yes.
loved you, by working.
Yeah, and
she wasn't there, but
and she's not there telling me this is what I'm doing for you. You don't see that until it's either too late or when you're all a lot older and she's not there next to you anymore. Yeah.
So, you guys were talking about your mom, and of course, my mom is such a huge role model for me. But I think I'd like to focus on my aunt. She's also another like motherly figure to me, and throughout like everything that we've been through, I've seen how independent she is because her husband doesn't live with her, and she's able to do everything like go throughout her day without him. And when he comes over, like she's such a great wife. But I think what she's taught me is that you could be independent and you don't need to rely on anybody. And she's always telling me, Emily, you need to go to school, go to college, get a good job, because you need to support yourself. And I think that she's always telling me how much she loves me and she's always praying for me, so like telling me, am I doing a good job? Am I showing you Christ's love? And I think she's just really showing me that motherly figure that I also get from my mom, but it's just a different aspect into it. So
So, I mean, we can't really talk about what makes women unique without talking about the thing that we go through every single month. We don't have to, but I saw a quote, and I just wanted to share with you guys that someone said that men go looking for pain because they don't have any, and they could create wars, but women have pain built in, so we don't have to bother doing that.
Wow.
That's funny.
So you're saying then if men got cramps, there would be no wars.
Who knows?
Maybe.
You know, they have those machines that can like
I
replicate
have seen
that.
those, yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe we should give that to certain world leaders
Yeah.
today and see, like, okay, if you can tough this out, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I have there's that, what we've been talking about, how men are, that societal pressure to be stronger for men, but just being perceived as stronger, and women more emotional, I guess. But I think it's interesting because to a man, you can say it to them, but you can't ever fully explain, and definitely for all the mothers who've been through childbirth, like what kind of pain that is, like, and how strong women have to be to deal with that. And at least for me, sometimes it can be frustrating when men don't understand, when you're trying to explain, I don't know about you guys.
No, yes, I 100% agree. I get like that with my husband all the time, and it's funny because it's like we'll be like comparing work days, and it's like, yeah, we'll try doing it on, while you're doing this, feeling like this, and you have to just take it. It's like, I don't have to, he doesn't have. So, but yeah, I agree.
It brings out the competitive side of me a little bit. I almost get that feeling to want to one up them, but sometimes I feel like there's a lot of people that feel that way, that for women's equality to work, they kind of want to take it a step further, almost to like chauvinism, with saying we can't just be equal to the men, we have to show them how much better we are than them. But I think that's just as dangerous as saying that men are inherently better than women.
It's just that we're different,
Yeah.
and different doesn't necessarily mean weaker
Yeah.
or inferior. It's just we, like you said, God created us differently, and for reasons. He had his reasons. He's the maker. He's the manufacturer. He knows better. So he knows why we were created differently. But yeah, I don't know. We're a bunch of hormones, and that does affect our mood. Yes, especially around that time, that special time, that does affect how we react. And it's just a blessing to have, when someone understands you and knows when to not push the buttons around that time.
I do love that my daughter, she's 10, and she actually just got it a month or two ago, at 10. And it's funny now because I told her dad about it, and he was freaking out. But so this morning, her dad picked her up, and she was all emotional and everything. And he calls me right after he calls me, is she on her days? Which I thought it was funny that he was asking. And I was like, I don't think so. I'm like, she might be though. So she is a little bit emotional. So, but I thought it was funny that he was trying to, I guess, be understanding to her emotions and trying to not freak out or yell at her for being emotional. So I did appreciate that.
I ask you guys a question though?
Yeah.
When it's that time, do you find that you are more susceptible to feeling insecure or depressed, feeling depressed? Is that
Yes.
normal?
I know it definitely gets me even more. I mean,
More-
I feel like I already suffer with a lot of that insecurities and everything after gaining so much weight with Olivia. I've never gained so much weight like I have now. But you get bloated and you get like super emotional, and I get even more insecure because I'm bloated, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm hideous and I'm fat, and it just adds to it. I definitely do feel like. At least it does affect me. I don't know about everyone, but it does to me.
Yeah. I read some things about with hormone fluctuations that it's not that men don't have hormone fluctuations, it's that women are more on a monthly-ish cycle and men tend to be on a daily cycle. And so I've seen some things about that's why clashes can happen in terms of not understanding where each other is at, things like that. So
Yeah, it takes a lot out of you. I mean, I think that's why you end up being very emotional, depressed, because something's happening in your body, obviously, and it's taking all your energy to continue doing what you do on a daily basis. And then this on top of that is just added even more. So it does, it's okay to feel that way.
yeah.
And men, that's one thing that no matter how much you try to change, to try to be a woman or anything like that, men will never understand that part of a woman, especially labor. And I think that sometimes that gives some insecurities as far as, a competition between a woman, because that is one thing they will never, ever be able to experience at all.
Yeah. So speaking of insecurities, especially I want to ask Naya and Emily, at least for you guys, do you feel insecure more on looks based? Because at least for me, a lot of my some insecurity can come from society telling you have to look a certain way, that one of the qualities that women have to have is they fit this one particular mold of what they think beautiful is. Do you guys feel like that's still the case for you growing up, or do you think that it's kind of changing?
Okay, so I feel like I have gone through that. Like I haven't fit certain standards, but I feel like more recently I've been surrounding myself with really positive people who have like really helped me like love myself, and they just build me up. So I feel like depending on who you surround yourself with, this insecurity can either be really low or really high, because they're the ones who are going to be around you daily, who are going to be building you up or tearing you down, and that just builds on your insecurities or just eliminates them altogether.
Yeah, I definitely did struggle with insecurities because, like in terms of body image, I guess, because there is a specific shape that's purported as, I don't know, the epitome of femininity, and like most women are never gonna be there just because of like bone structure and stuff, and that is really like soul sucking when you're trying to push for that. I don't think I ever really did to like the extent that I could have, because I didn't actually have social media for a long time. And even when I do now, I don't really look at, I don't know, body stuff, because I just feel awkward doing that. But like I did, even like without social media, there's still a lot of influences that will like make, I don't know, kind of shaped how I viewed like the perfect body or whatever. Like I remember, I was cleaning out my room this one time a couple of months ago, and I found a Barbie doll, like an old Barbie doll, and I freaked out because like from the like waist down, I was like, dang, that's exactly how I think of as like the ideal feminine body. But I never, well, not like the chest up because that it looks really weird because their neck is really long and stuff.
Yeah.
But and so it's kind of creepy. So I don't think of that as like feminine, but like waist down is pretty dead accurate. And so I was like, wait a second, is that where that like part that came from? It was subconscious. I didn't even realize it was happening. But I mean nowadays, like my focus kind of shifted towards just being healthy in general. Like I never really was obsessive about like female body types or whatever because like I know that's like I'm 5'2", like that's probably not possible for me anyway, so it's like why try. But like nowadays it's just a focus on health is probably what is helpful for me. But I did actually kind of carry that a little too far a little while ago, which it kind of became a little bit obsessive, but I'm better now. So yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah, I think one of the things that one of the biggest misconceptions I see is effortless beauty is being like either it's wearing no makeup or wearing very little makeup and saying that that's the most desirable kind. But me personally, I don't know any woman who doesn't do anything to get ready, who just wakes up and is whatever. But
Looks like that.
yeah, I wish I could, but I think that because there's so many women that like they just see someone and they go, oh, she looks like amazing, like just doing nothing, and like you could be spending hours making yourself look like
you just got
out of bed. And like for me, when I got ready this morning, I had to wake up early because I was like, okay, well, I want to make sure, do my hair and do my makeup and everything. And at least for me, I know that lots of men can struggle with image issues too. But I know for me, I always have to make sure I know when I'm leaving so that I have enough time to wake up and get ready. And sometimes, I don't know what you guys think, sometimes I wish I didn't care.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, why should I care? Should I be focusing on more important things? I'm like, well, should sometimes I wonder, I don't know about you, maybe I should, instead of spending the time doing like my makeup for church, I should be doing a devotional before church. And it's like, am I being too self-obsessed, or am I just, presenting myself well for church, for the Lord? But
a superwoman could do both, though, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're expected to be superwomen.
Yeah.
I've heard that. I don't know if have you guys heard about this? Like the difference between a male brain and a female brain. It's the male brain is bigger, and the female brain, of course, is smaller. But I've always looked at it like, well, you know how like computers, they started out really big, but then they got smaller. They got the super processors.
Yes.
But women's brains are wired. Our brains are wired differently. We're wired to be. We can multitask better, actually, and that's just because our brains are wired like that. And maybe that's why we feel like, well, I can do everything. I can.
Yeah.
I should be able to do everything because I'm a woman, and I have to say that I fall into that trap a lot because I'm also, very independent, and I like to do things. Again, there's that, well, don't tell me I can't do that because I'm a girl. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this, and I'm trying to balance work and family life, and no, I can do this. I can multitask. And I end up stressing myself out. And my husband tells me like, Penn, don't do so much. Or do you have to do this? I'm like, yeah, I can do this. It's fine. It's fine. I can do this.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And about that, like the whole like, trying to look pretty and everything. I always wake up and I'm just like, oh, I should try to do something to myself. Like even though I'm working from home, like I should do something. I don't know, like put a little bit of, and sometimes it's funny because I'm just like, okay, well, there's lipstick, and I'm all like, and then nothing else. Like my hair's a mess, and I'm just right there with some lipstick on, But yeah, I definitely feel like super insecure, even more, even after like after having Olivia, my whole body and just everything, like my whole look, everything, I just completely changed, like hormones, like I even till now, because I'm still breastfeeding. Another thing that women can do, is breastfeed, and it definitely changes something that I guess men will never understand either, and also women that don't breastfeed, because when you're breastfeeding, I've never gone through this with both Roxanne and Ivan, my other kids. I didn't get to breastfeed them the way I'm breastfeeding Olivia, and I tell my husband, I'm like, my gosh, it really took a toll on me completely, like my whole mental health, my whole, like just my image and my face, like my hormones, and it just made me even more insecure. If I was insecure before, I tell him, I'm like, I've never been like this insecure in my life. And so now, even just opening my Instagram or something, and you see this model, I'm just like, wow. I'm like, she's a mom. She's doing it. Like, why can't I look like that?
I think that's a way that Satan attacks us, though.
Definitely.
I mean, knowing,
I agree.
because we're women, and because of the curse on Eve was that she would desire her husband's opinion, approval. That's our desire, is to our husband. Our desire is so that we're accepted by the male.
Yeah.
And that has been abused on the other side, but it also works against us too. And this is like why we have beauty pageants. I'm like, what is the point of a beauty pageant? Yes. I never understood that. I was like, how come men don't have that? It's like, why do we have to parade around in a big, swimsuit? That just doesn't make. It's for, it's for my scholarship. I'm like, really? Yeah. Is there another way that you can do that? I mean, do we have to do this? I've always. That's one of my pet peeves, beauty pageants.
Yeah. I mean, I literally came out of the bathroom, I'm like, do you like my makeup? I want to get that confirmation that I spent almost a whole hour right there. Like, yes, I love it, And if I don't get it, I'm like, well, I failed, like.
But I think that's how Satan attacks us. I started to see that's how, for women, that's one special attack that he saves just for us.
Oh yeah, and it's something that I struggle with all the time, and especially after my last child, it definitely changed everything, and it took like my mental health, just the way I think of myself now, and I'm always like down on myself. And my husband's like, why? Like, you are beautiful no matter what. Like, and I'm always like, well, I'm not like how you first met me. Like, I was like size 1 or 2, whatever it is, and I was so skinny and long hair, and now like I chop my hair off so I won't have to do anything with it, and like literally, and it's like, no, like, but I mean, I love how, I mean, he does make me feel very, very like secure about myself. I feel like I shouldn't have to look for that. I want to be able to feel like that myself, and it's hard today because of what you see on the internet, on the news, or whatever it is. Like, I'm always comparing myself to someone. Yeah. I think, yeah.
May I ask, Elvira, were you able to nurse your children? No? I was able to nurse. I know that, that's it. The first Dawson was a difficulty. I thought it was like, okay, you're a woman, you should be able to do it. Go ahead, make it happen. We struggled. I had to go to classes to learn how to train him, because his mouth wasn't in the right position or something like that. So we actually went through lactation classes. But I just wanted to let you know, you're feeling like that now. But if you're not able to nurse, that's okay, because you can still feed your child, and just that whole bond that you have your child. But if you're able to nurse, enjoy it, cherish it, because once I weaned my youngest, Jared, it wasn't hard on him, it was hard on me. I'm the one that cried. Yeah,
I get emotional thinking about it.
I cried. Really, yeah, it hurt so much that he's not going to ever need me like that anymore.
I tell Johnny, I was actually supposed to stop at she's already going on 2 years old, and I was actually supposed to stop at a year old. And I was like, I can't wait till I get this. First, I was like, I can't wait till she latches, because I had a hard time latching her to get, because I had a emergency surgery after I had her. I didn't get to do skin to skin. I didn't get to breastfeed her. Like, I had a whole plan on what to do the moment that she came out of me. And all of that plan was like, nope. I was rushed to emergency surgery, and it took a couple weeks for her to actually want me. And I would cry and I would pray to God, please, 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 just let her latch. Like, I want to be able to experience this. I didn't get to experience this with my other two, because there was a lot of things going on. First one, I was 15. Second one, I was 19 and still going through a lot. And I was like, I just want to experience this. So when she finally did, I was just so happy, jumping up and down. And then I had a lot of issues too, her, latching on, or pain, and that pain never went away. But now I tell them, like, I was like, I can't wait till it's over. But now I'm just like, I'm getting close to 2, and I'm about to finish. And I said, I kind of don't want it to stop. He's like, but you're always complaining. I'm like, but it's not. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to be like free from the pain, the uncomfortable going to sleep with her like that. But it's that bond that I get from her, those little looks that she gives me, the caresses, and I get all emotional thinking that that's gonna stop.
Well, just to kind of, since what we've all been talking about is what the experience is like as a woman growing up, as a girl into womanhood and into motherhood. As you all know, there are a lot of transgender individuals who transition from being male into female, and there's a lot of them that say, I'm just as much a woman as everyone else. Do you guys have any individual thoughts about that? Like, do you think that just getting a surgery is what makes you a woman, or do you think those all these experiences that we've talked about are important?
I, just like Elvira was saying, they can go ahead and change everything they want. And I mean, unfortunately, I know people, and I'm no one to judge or anything, but no matter how many surgeries or hormones, you might be able to experience some of the hormones that we experience, but the whole going through that menstrual every single month, and childbirth, and breastfeeding, and all, or breast cancer, things that they will never experience. And that's something that makes a woman unique.
Yeah.
Definitely second that. I mean, yeah, no matter how much you want to change, how much you want to save, again, nothing against, what you want to do with yourself, but, trying to call yourself, I'm a full woman. I'm exactly like you. You can't. You can't say that you're feeling exactly the way we do. Feel the same pain, labor pains, emotions, things like that, because we're wired differently. Like Penny said as well.
Even the insecurities.
God made us completely different, and our insides are completely different. We're not the same inside. You open us up, and we're not the same. Even bone structure as well. I mean, you can take it down as deep as you want, and try to nitpick at everything, and it won't be the same. You can't really call yourself a woman.
I think that is, if you can change yourself and call yourself a woman, like me at my young age, I have never experienced childbirth or any of that, but I have certain experiences that they are never going to experience. I've had comments, I felt pain, emotions that make me who I am. As as I've been growing up, I've grown up with a certain standard, a certain way I should be treated that they're never going to experience, and that makes me who I am as a woman.
Yeah, so I guess what's most important, kind of concluding that we've talked about, is being a woman and submitting is not admitting weakness. It's more of accepting that we all have different roles, and those roles are just as important, because without those roles, things are a lot more difficult.
Chaotic.
Yeah.
It's just kind of chaotic. I don't know. the different roles are there for a reason. And the reason is right now, because the world is sinful. Our first parents messed up, and we are now, paying the price for their mistake. And this is just a temporary situation. When Jesus comes back, it's going to be the way that it was supposed to be in the first place. But right now, in this situation, the way that it is, we're in a battle situation. So someone has to be the general, and someone has to follow. And if you're looking at the biblical model, a lot of people have used that against us to say, well, this is why women should be treated like they're inferior. Again, like what Naya was saying, the husband should love the wife as much as Jesus loved us. So if we're expected to submit to them, they should also follow exactly what they're supposed to do, which is to love us to the point that they would die for us, just like Jesus.
Yeah, and the thing about nowadays, it's like forget what the Bible says. You see, this Bible's telling you to submit,
Or
like, bow
they
down
just
to
pick
your
on that one
husband.
part.
Yeah, and
They just pick
you
that
don't
part
need
out,
a
right?
man.
They just focus on that.
Whatever they want.
Yeah, what
They
they want to
nip it.
input into our young girls already, because from what I've been seeing in movies and everything, it's like you don't need a man. You can do better all by yourself. You can do bad all by yourself. And whatever, but you don't need a man, and you don't need someone to tell you what to do. You don't need this book to tell you how to live your life. And that's what today's all about, like especially the women and young girls, like my girls, the music and TV shows and everything. It's all about all of that, like rule breaking. And
Did you have something to say, Naya?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's on. Oh, okay. I think the problem with why we want to kind of rebel against the whole submission thing is because we've taken submission and headship and that whole concept, but instead of defining them as the Bible defines them, we define it through like the lens of like traditions and our culture and stuff, and then we make our culture into a moral issue. And it's like, okay, submission, it means we're in the kitchen, it means we're cooking, it means we're always asking them for permission or whatever. And then we say headship, it means, okay, I'm breadwinning, I'm the disciplinarian, I'm doing all of these traditionally like masculine roles, which really aren't in the Bible. Like masculinity is not defined as earning money or whatever, and not crying and being devoid of emotion, or only showing anger and only being strong. And femininity in the Bible is not defined as being weak or doing everything or people pleasing and all of that stuff. We've taken and we've just defined submission and headship by our culture and by our traditions, and that's kind of what caused a lot of people to rebel against gender roles, but also against like the Bible submission and headship, because we've got wrong what the Bible is actually saying, and we're not actually rebelling against the Bible. We're rebelling against like the corrupted ways we've twisted the words and stuff.
Yeah.
And I forgot where I was going with this, but I guess what I was thinking is that like when we look at submission and headship in its purest form, in the way that God intended it to be, it's actually like the perfect model of a healthy relationship. It's just we've screwed that up, and we've screwed up the words and the terminology and stuff, and now we're trying to correct it on our own ways, using our own ways, by our own wisdom and our leaning on our own understanding, Proverbs, that whole stuff. And that's a lot of the reason why we're having problems today, and why every solution we come up with, like, oh, raise your children the exact same way, or oh, women, you need to not prove yourself, but you shouldn't have to prove yourself, and you are actually like superior to men. And it's just like, no, that's not what anybody was saying. You're fighting against the wrong things. And that's fine.
Can I add something
go ahead,
to
and then
Naya?
we're
This
gonna
might be-
close out after that.
This might be opening a can of worms late in the game, but a lot of people look at the Bible and they look at the example of a man marrying multiple women, and they use that as a reason, a justification that, yeah, a man should be able to do whatever he wants. But we have to remember that the Bible's a record of how God works through imperfect people. Because it's in the Bible, because these people, because that was not the plan. That was not the original plan for a man to have multiple wives. Otherwise, when he created Adam and Eve, he would have created Adam, Eve, and some other chick, you know?
Yeah.
But that's not what
Yeah.
In
happened.
case this one doesn't do
Yeah.
what you want.
Yeah.
Here's the other one.
For whatever reason, that started to become the accepted norm, I guess. And that wasn't what he had intended. So a lot of people will use the Bible. Well, you say you're trying to raise them, you're trying to follow the biblical model of it, but what about these people? Look at all these guys with all the multiple wives, Solomon and his 3 million wives or whatever, what about that? Again, imperfect people, but God in his mercy and his grace is still able to work through imperfect people like us, and work out his will, because he's got a greater plan. A lot of times we just kind of forget about that. We just humans, we just focus on submit, and we don't look at the husbands love your wives as Jesus loved the church, so those kinds of things.
Well, we're running out of time, but that was a great point. Thank you. So I just wanted to thank all you lovely ladies for being on with us today, and thanks Leuston for inviting all of you guys. But we're just going to close out with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us all gather here today, and thank you for giving us the ability to discuss these situations and problems in a way that we can grow and share our experiences with one another. Thank you for creating us the way you did, and please continue to be with us all as we travel safe home. In your name, amen.